The banner read Class of 2014 10-year reunion, but inside, the real performance had already begun.
Our son Michael is the doctor of the family.
He's had his own practice for 3 years. We're extremely proud.
Across the room, Ava stood by a high-top table in navy surgical scrubs, a stethoscope around her neck, listening to the well-rehearsed lines her mother had perfected.
And Ava works at the hospital too. Just administrative things, you understand. Nothing clinical. 8 years of medical school, residency, and a chief resident position, all reduced to a dismissive phrase she'd heard 100 times.
A woman in a red dress, someone Ava hadn't seen in a decade, approached with a curious smile.
Oh, Ava just helps out at the hospital. It's mostly office work, you know?
Before Ava could respond, her phone vibrated against her thigh. The caller ID read, Dr. Christopher. She silenced it, jaw tight, and slipped the phone back into her pocket as if it hadn't happened. Thomas stood with an old friend, laughing, then gestured grandly toward Michael across the room.
Ladies and gentlemen, a toast to my son, Dr. Michael, the real doctor in the family.
The real doctor. As if her own 8 years of cutting open chests and saving lives was performance art.
She clapped along with everyone else, her smile a careful mask.
Michael handles so many patients, always so dedicated. And Ava, well, she's found her place in the hospital too.
Ava's hand drifted to the badge clipped at her chest. Chief Resident, General Surgery, the words nobody bothered to read.
When you're managing a private practice, you learn to juggle. But it's all about patient care.
Patient care. He twisted spines for back pain. Last Tuesday, she'd cracked a chest open while he booked a golf tee time.
Her phone buzzed again. The same name. She glanced down, then silenced it once more. The DJ played an upbeat song. Laughter filled the room. For Ava, the noise only sharpened the silence.
Ava, I know these things are hard for you, but just smile, nod, and let Michael shine. He needs this. Let him shine. They'd been polishing his ego all night while she held her tongue.
Her phone buzzed a third time. The caller ID read, Dr. Christopher. Beneath it, one word, urgent.
3 calls. The chief of surgery didn't pursue anyone for administrative notes.
Before she could even reach for the phone, the ballroom doors swung open with a heavy creak. A tall man in a dark sport coat stood silhouetted against the hallway light, silver at his temples, eyes scanning the crowd with deliberate precision. He leaned toward a passing waiter, asked a short question, and then nodded, his jaw setting. The waiter's arm extended, pointing unmistakably toward the high-top table where Ava stood frozen.
Ava felt the floor tilt. Dr. Christopher wasn't here for the reunion.
The chief of surgery had come looking for his chief resident, and no one else at that party had any idea. Dr. Christopher cut through the room with a stride that turned heads, his gaze fixed on Ava like a missile.
Ava's pulse hammered. This was not a coincidence. He was here for her, and the room was about to witness something no one planned.
He stopped before her, and for a breath the only sound was the faint hum of the DJ's equipment until he spoke. He didn't lower his voice. It carried to the nearby tables, sharp and clear.
Dr. Ava, I've been trying to reach you all evening. This cannot wait.
Nancy's head snapped around so fast her neck cracked. The wine in her glass tipped, a dark bead trailing down the stem. Thomas's bluff laughter died. His mouth dropped open, then closed, like a fish pulled onto a dock. Michael's hand froze midway to his lips, the glass hovering, ice cubes motionless. The DJ mistakenly killed the music, and in the sudden vacuum, whispers erupted.
Ava drew a slow breath. The word doctor had just demolished 40 minutes of family fiction. There was no going back.
Ava squared her shoulders, the shift almost imperceptible, and met his gaze with the same steadiness she used in the OR.
The Henderson case. Complication in the surgical timeline. You're on call by 9, and I need your eye on it before I approve the final plan.
Excuse me? Who are you? And why are you talking to my daughter about a case? She does filing.
I'm Dr. Christopher, Chief of Surgery at Memorial Trauma Center. Your daughter is my chief resident, and she doesn't file anything, she operates.
Chief resident? No, that's not. She works in the office. We must have misunderstood.
I'll review the scans by 9. You can page me if there's a change before then.
Michael's carefully polished smile fractured at the edges, his fingers tightening around the glass until his knuckles whitened. A low murmur rippled through the nearby tables as guests began to connect the badge on her chest with the title they'd just heard.
Good. And Ava, the board reviewed your surgical outcomes this quarter. Exceptionally clean work.
She felt her parents' eyes boring into her back, 2 decades of dismissal suddenly turning to dust in the space of a single conversation.
The board was unanimous. I'm forwarding your name for the Mayo Clinic Surgical Fellowship this spring.
For a long beat, the ballroom seemed to hold its breath, the Mayo Clinic name echoing like a strike on glass.
Mayo? She works in filing. For God's sake, this has to be a mistake.
Nancy's wine glass slipped, shattering on the floor in a red spray that matched the flush climbing her neck.
Chief resident? Mayo? This couldn't be right. She was supposed to be the quiet one.
Thank you, Dr. Christopher. I'll have the application materials prepared after I finish reviewing the Henderson case.
I'll let the fellowship committee know. They've been asking about you for months.
The weight of the revelation pressed down on the room until even the clinking of glasses stopped.
Ava watched her family's faces crumble and felt something she hadn't expected. Not anger, but a quiet, cold satisfaction.
The reunion had become a different event entirely, and the family's carefully constructed pedestal had begun to crumble.
You must be incredibly proud. Dr. Ava has a surgical instinct that only comes once a decade.
The silence that followed was a held breath, then the buzz of a dozen whispered conversations.
Well, Michael is also a doctor. We have 2 doctors, actually. Michael has a practice.
Thomas cleared his throat, but the authority had drained from his voice.
I didn't realize she had a brother in medicine. What kind of practice?
I'm a chiropractor, Dr. Michael. Well, it's a different field.
Phones rose like a slow tide, cameras turned toward the family cluster, and the whisper became a current.
She could have spoken, could have corrected her parents months ago, but tonight she simply let the truth do its own work. We're very supportive parents. We just like to keep family matters private.
Dr. Christopher, still unaware of the depth of the wound he'd reopened, turned toward Michael with a curious professional interest.
Are you Dr. Ava's brother? She mentioned a chiropractor in the family.
The casual question landed like a stone in still water. Michael's confidence splintered.
Yes, that's me. We just have different approaches, but family comes first.
I meant to ask. We just rejected a malpractice claim against your office. The patient is suing for $480,000.
The number cut through the air, precise and surgical, leaving no room for denial.
That's impossible. Michael would never.
Michael's face drained to ash. He opened his mouth, but no sound came.
This is slander. Who do you think you are?
The DJ fumbled a record, and a slow, mournful song spilled into the ballroom, underscoring the ruin.
Ava stood still, watching the implosion she had not orchestrated, but could not help savoring. Then she reached for her phone. Dr. Christopher, give me 1 moment. I need to take this. It's the hospital.
You come in here, humiliate my son with some trumped-up claim? This is a family event.
It's a misunderstanding. The patient was unstable. There's no basis for this.
I apologize. I didn't intend to disrupt your evening. I'll discuss the matter through proper channels.
I have to take this call. I'll be back.
She turned and walked through the hushed crowd, her back straight, her head held high, as if the room itself was parting for her. Nancy and Thomas stood frozen, their faces ashen, the wine stains spreading on the carpet like an accusation. Michael collapsed into a chair, his head dropping into his hands as the murmur of phones recording him grew louder. In the hallway, Ava put the phone to her ear, her voice steady as she addressed the Henderson case, miles away from the wreckage behind her.
Let them drown in it. She'd spent decades treading water in their silence. Now she could finally breathe.
Ava finished the call. The Henderson case settled for now, but the silence afterward was heavier than any medical chart. She leaned against the cool wall, pressing her palm flat against the plaster, as if to steady something deeper than her body.
All this time, they'd carved away pieces of her to build Michael's pedestal. Tonight, the pedestal had crumbled, but she'd been silent for it all.
Her reflection in the hall mirror stared back. A surgeon in scrubs, a badge that declared a truth her parents had tried to erase.
No, she'd let the universe speak for her, but she needed to finish it. She needed them to hear it from her own lips.
She pushed off the wall, squared her shoulders, the motion automatic from years of walking into operating rooms. Through the doors, the ballroom's noise had collapsed into a low hum, punctured by occasional sharp voices. The wreckage was complete.
They'd built an entire evening around a lie. Now she'd give them the truth, and she'd do it with the same calm she used to ask for a scalpel.
She walked toward the doors, the carpet muffling her steps, her heartbeat a steady drum. At the threshold, she paused, hearing her mother's muffled crying. Then she pushed the door open. There was no more waiting. Ava pushed the door open and stepped into the hum of the ballroom. Every head turned, the whispers died. She walked past frozen classmates, her stride no different than when she crossed a hospital floor. She stopped directly before her parents and brother. Thomas's face reddened. Michael's gaze dropped.
I am Dr. Ava, Chief Resident of General Surgery at Memorial Trauma Center. I've been a doctor for 8 years. I didn't file paperwork. I cracked chests. I saved lives. And not once did you ever ask me about it?
Nancy's hand flew to her mouth, but no sob could cover the silence that followed.
You spent 2 hours tonight telling everyone my brother is the doctor of the family.
The words hung in the air, accusing and precise, and not a single person in that room could pretend they hadn't heard. Michael's jaw worked, but his voice had deserted him. The truth was out, and there was no shelf high enough to hide it.
Ava, sweetheart, we never meant to hurt you. Michael needed this, and we got carried away. You spent 2 hours erasing my career. You chose to make me invisible so he could feel like a winner. Your insecurity might cost you your practice, your reputation, and every dime you have. You played doctor while cutting corners. A patient is suing you for almost $500,000. I have a patient waiting who actually needs a real doctor. I'm done playing this game.
She turned, her stethoscope swinging, and walked away, her back straight and her heart steady.
Ava, for God's sake, don't do this. We'll make it right, I swear. You forfeited the right to ask me for anything the day you decided I didn't matter.
The door closed behind her, its quiet clicks sounding more final than any slammed door. Outside, the night air hit her face, and Ava walked toward the hospital, her steps light for the first time in years. Inside the ballroom, the silence that followed Ava's exit was heavier than any applause. Nancy collapsed into a chair, her sobs the only sound breaking the oppressive quiet.
She's gone. My daughter is gone, and I don't know how to fix this.
Thomas stood frozen, his hands hanging limp at his sides, a man whose authority had evaporated. Guests began gathering their coats and purses, avoiding the wreckage at the center of the room. The DJ dropped the needle on a slow, mournful track, the notes sliding into the hollow spaces between people.
I've ruined everything.
A woman in a red dress pulled her husband toward the door, whispering that she'd seen enough. The wine stain on the carpet remained, a dark bloom that would take days to fade. By the time the song ended, half the room had emptied, and the reunion of 2014 was no longer a celebration. Ava reached her car, the parking lot hollow with the recent departure of guests, and unlocked the door without pause. She slid into the driver's seat, the leather cool and quiet, and let her hands rest on the wheel before starting the engine.
40 minutes ago, she was the administrative help. Now the whole reunion knew her name in a sentence with Mayo and malpractice.
She pulled out of the lot and onto the city street, the hum of the tires erasing the noise she'd endured for hours.
Memorial, this is Dr. Ava. I'm en route. Have the Henderson labs ready.
The dispatcher's voice crackled back, listing updates. But Ava's mind was already running surgical timelines.
The work steadied her. There was no room in an OR for family drama or whispered lies, only precision.
Ava glanced at the rearview mirror, the venue's lights shrinking behind her, and a weary smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. The hospital rose ahead, a block of bright windows and steady purpose, and she guided the car into the staff lot. By the time she killed the engine, Ava felt lighter than she had in years. The weight of their expectations was gone. 3 months after that night, the dust had settled into a landscape none of them had expected. Ava now wore a new badge and a white coat, Mayo Clinic Fellow, General Surgery.
The fellowship had been more intense than she'd imagined, but her hands were steadier than ever.
She moved through the hospital corridors with the calm authority of a surgeon who had found her place. In a quiet living room across town, the Caldwell home was no longer a stage for bragging. Nancy and Thomas sat on opposite ends of a couch, the television off, the silence thick.
She still won't answer my calls.
What did you expect? We made a mistake.
The mantel held a photograph of young Ava, untouched for years, now an accusation. Meanwhile, Ava stood over a patient's chart, her expression focused, her past a closed file. Across town, Michael's office had been stripped to the bones, a for lease sign taped to the glass. He lifted the Dr. Michael nameplate from his desk and dropped it into a cardboard box. The morning paper lay on the counter. Headline bold, Chiropractor's malpractice verdict reaches $480,000. The judgment had been swift. The lawsuit was public record now and his practice was finished. He carried the box through the empty waiting room, passing the chiropractor sign that workmen were already taking down. Outside, he slid the box into his trunk, the car looking as hollow as his career. He sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, staring at the steering wheel, his face a mask of ruin. Behind him, the chiropractor's sign was gone, the building face stripped bare. The arrogance that had filled that reunion ballroom had collapsed under the weight of its own pretension. There would be no comeback. Only a box of memories and a name that no longer meant anything. In the wood-paneled office of the chief of surgery, Dr. Christopher handed Ava a leather-bound certificate.
This formally recognizes your completion of the Mayo Surgical Fellowship, the highest honor a resident can earn.
Ava's fingers traced the embossed seal, her name in flowing script.
The entire department is proud of you, Dr. Ava. You've brought credit to this hospital.
Thank you, Dr. Christopher. I'm grateful for the opportunity. They never asked. But here, every handshake told her what her parents never had.
Later that week, she stood at a surgical conference, the Mayo Fellowship badge prominent on her lapel. The auditorium listened in silence, hanging on her every word, then erupted in genuine applause. She had traveled far from that reunion ballroom where she'd been invisible. The journey had shaped her into the surgeon she was always meant to be. On a bright spring morning, Ava pulled up to the newly opened wing of the Regional Medical Center. She stepped out, the sun warming her shoulders as she looked at the building that would now carry her nameplate.
This was the culmination of everything they dismissed.
The glass doors slid open, and she walked inside, her white coat billowing gently. Inside, the atrium soared, light pouring in from a massive skylight above.
The same hands that once held a water glass now held a surgeon's future.
She strode past the front desk, nodding to the receptionist, toward the operating suites.
She'd never needed their permission. She'd built this herself.
The title Dr. Ava echoed in the announcements over the intercom. She was always a doctor. Now everyone knew. The Caldwell house sat in afternoon stillness, the kind that settled into furniture and never left. Nancy's gaze fixed on the mantel, where a photograph of young Ava in braces smiled, untouched by the years of silence.
She was always so serious about her studies. We should have seen it. Should have asked.
Thomas picked up his phone, thumb hovering over Ava's number, then set it down without calling.
There's no point. She made it clear.
We built him up so high, we forgot to look down at her.
I thought cheerleading him would pull the family together. Instead, It tore us apart.
The photographs seemed to watch them, a frozen girl who'd become a surgeon too busy for their regret. Outside, the sun sank behind the roofline, casting the room in long shadows that stretched toward nothing. They hadn't just lost a daughter. They had forfeited her, one dismissive word at a time. Michael had traded his tailored blazer for a polyester warehouse vest, his days now measured in inventory counts. The chiropractor license had been revoked 2 weeks after the verdict. No insurance, no clinic, no title.
Every time someone called him Mike instead of Dr. Michael, it chipped something away.
At night, he retreated to his garage, where a single box held the remnants of his old life. He pulled out the Dr. Michael nameplate, its brass still gleaming, and hung it on a nail above his workbench.
That title was the only thing I had. Now it's just a piece of metal.
The garage smelled of motor oil and failure, a far cry from the sleek office where he once hosted golf buddies. While Ava saved lives in a sunlit operating room, Michael stacked boxes and nursed a memory.
He'd built his whole identity on being their golden boy. Without the title, who was he?
The nameplate stayed on the wall, a silent trophy of what pride had cost. In her new office, Ava set down her surgical case file and picked up her personal phone. She scrolled past messages from colleagues, then stopped on a photo from the reunion night. The image caught her in navy scrubs, water glass in hand, a forced smile for the camera.
That woman looked so small, so patient. She'd held her breath for years.
But that night had broken the silence, and from the silence, something else had grown.
She no longer needed to prove anything to anyone, not even to herself.
Ava exhaled, a breath she'd been holding since high school, and darkened the screen. She placed the phone face down on her desk, the image of the past retiring to memory. Outside her window, the hospital hummed with the steady rhythm of lives being saved. And Dr. Ava picked up the next chart, her hands steady, her heart at peace. Ava set down her pen and rose from the desk. The quiet of her office was a world away from that reunion. She crossed to the window, the afternoon sun warming her face as she looked out at the skyline. For a long moment, she closed her eyes and let the light wash over her, a quiet benediction. When she opened them, her reflection in the glass smiled back, a face she finally recognized as her own. She turned back to her desk, the weight of her family's disregard no longer a stone in her chest.
The girl who stood silent at that reunion was now a surgeon who spoke with her hands.
She picked up the next case file, her eyes already scanning the data, her mind building the procedure. The hospital hummed around her, a symphony of beeping monitors and quiet footsteps, and she was a part of its rhythm. In that rhythm, the old wounds had finally closed. The scars remained only as reminders of strength. She didn't need their approval. She never had.